So, I really wanted to have a really fun little chat because of what I do and because of how much it's been working for me at least, and I know for a lot of others. It's made me so inspired to learn as much as I possibly can about why the fuck it's working, because I'm like, this is insane. It's like, holy crap, like how is this working so well? How? So, did you know that 90% of our bodies are made up of bacteria and only 10% are made up of human cells? 90% of us is bacteria, so we have this whole world, this whole universe, this whole ecosystem of cells inside of us, bacteria inside of us that make up who we are, and only 10% of those cells are actually human cells. So essentially, it would be easy enough to say that our health is dependent on the vibrancy of that universe, of that ecosystem. Our health, our bacteria inside of us is responsible for digesting foods, producing vitamins and hormones, and it's responsible for processing medications and removing infections from the body. It's like our blood sugar, our cholesterol levels, the control of risk of disease. So many different things are controlled by this bacteria that's inside of us. There's so much that this bacteria inside of us does. It basically functions like a second brain, and that's what their research is starting to show, is that our gut is actually as powerful as our brain, if not more so. Back in the day, they actually used to remove sections of people's gut. When they were having gut discomfort fully, they would just remove sections of people's insides if they felt uncomfortable. And now we just kind of prescribe jabs because then they introduced antibiotics, and then we've kind of overused them, which has helped the symptoms in the short term, but actually has been breaking down and destroying the balance of good bacteria in our bodies. And then we of course have probiotics, which are amazing and they help, but we are also kind of feeding ourselves, hormones in our meat and plastics in our fish and all of these different chemicals and preservatives and everything inside our foods that are just breaking down everything that's good inside of us. And our poor guts have so much work to do just to try and keep a healthy balance. Our intestines are physically linked to our brain. That's something that really was fascinating to me. So there's this thing called the vagus nerve, which sends signals in both directions, and tests have shown that this nerve is severed. Our intestines actually still function without a connection to our brain, showing they're just as powerful as the brain itself. We are living in an epidemic of modern plagues. So the rates of illness in children have doubled over the last 5 years. And then internationally, there's been a threefold increase of ADHD, a 20-fold increase in autism, and a 40-fold increase in bipolar disorder in children alone internationally. Chronic illnesses are on the rise, but shouldn't they be decreasing with all of the drugs and all the amazing things that we've created to cure them? It used to be just cancer that we were afraid of, and now you've got chronic fatigue, IBS, leaky gut, autoimmune disease, endometriosis, polycystic ovary syndrome, HPV, cysts, tumors, and the list goes on. And those are just things that either I've directly experienced, or I've known someone, or they've known someone who has experienced it, and they're all under the age of 30. Like, what the fuck? And then it's no wonder that mental illness is on the rise, because we are not only dealing with a system that tells us that we're not good enough as we are, an economy that means we have to work our guts out 90% of our lives just to survive, and a lot of us are spending a lot of our time at doctors or numbing ourselves with drugs and alcohol. 6 months ago, before I kind of started this new journey of mine, a doctor gave me a checklist when I went to him in chronic pain. I couldn't move, I hadn't moved for weeks. And this checklist was a checklist of symptoms that I'd had either currently or in the last 3 years. And I was able to check off almost all of them. Well, he said something that really, I can't believe no other doctor had actually said to me in the many previous years. He said, you're not supposed to spend most of your 20s in this kind of discomfort. I'm not? Really? I just thought it was normal. I thought that epic feeling when you were when you'd go on a real health kick and you'd be really active and you're eating really well and, you know, getting up early and all that, I thought that that real high feeling was only attainable if you did that kind of routine 24/7. And of course that wasn't sustainable because I was in my 20s. I wanted to like go out and have fun and eat naughty food and do other things. The whole kind of link of all of this, from our gut microbiome all the way through to our brain and how they kind of function and react to each other, made me think of a really funny story from like back in the day when we used to party a lot. Don't tell my parents, but I used to do some drugs. That someone had told us that before you take a certain type of drug, it was good to eat a lot of bananas because they would actually boost the serotonin in you. We didn't know where. And so then when you took the drugs, you would have a better high. Now, I'm not encouraging anyone to do this. The fact that we were able to boost serotonin by eating something always kind of struck a chord with me. Like later on down the track, I was like, oh, okay, cool. So obviously foods are responsible. 90% of serotonin, which is the like happy neurotransmitter, it makes us feel like, woo. 90% of serotonin is produced in our gut. Only 10% in the brain. That really got me. So the health of our ecosystem, of our universe inside of us, of our gut, has so, like, that much of an effect. 90% of an effect on this. And by nourishing our gut health, we're changing the way that our body is supporting us both physically and mentally. And that high that I used to chase, that I used to do drugs to get, that high is achievable completely naturally. Okay, so that's like just a little snippet of all the stuff I've been learning. But thank you so much for watching. I hope that you learned something, and I find that education is so empowering, especially when it's something like our health, like how our bodies work, because these are the most important tools we're ever gonna have. And that's what we want, isn't it? We want to enjoy our lives, we want to enjoy every moment, and we want to feel those highs that we feel when we do all those naughty kind of things. But we don't want to have to do those things to get there. We don't have to spend that money to get there. How good would it be if we could all feel it naturally? Reach out to me if you want to have a chat. As always, sending my love to all of you. See you soon.
Hi, beauties.
It's my soul sister.
I hope everyone is living their best lives right now.
See, she gets it.
I forgot to mention you are beautiful. I forgot to mention you are beautiful. I forgot to mention you are beautiful. How you give it all and you take it back.
Oh, now I have to figure out how to end this all.